Yep. It's working.
Awesome.
Good. Cool.
Excellent.
Okay, cool. Thanks,
That way
guys.
you won't have to send it to me.
Awesome.
Perfect. One less person to send it to.
That's right.
All right. Yeah, so we're going to mute everyone, and we are recording just to start so that if you guys are camera shy, we are going to be sharing this. So if you guys don't want to be seen or any privacy issues, make sure that you turn off your cameras, okay?
Okay, I'll do that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So hello everybody, thanks for coming. I'm Tammy. I'm going to go through and I'm just going to actually introduce some of our members of our team that are here, and then get into introducing Manny as well, our guest of honor today, and then we're going to hit Manny with some really tough contracting questions, right? Like, why is the prices so high? How come we have to pay so much for all this work? Right, that stuff. Yeah. So to start, myself, I've been a realtor for over 2.5 years now, licensed, and I've helped many clients with our duplex conversions. We've done renovations, small renovations, and flip projects. So Manny and myself have worked closely on those projects together. So I'm an investor for myself, and then my husband and I also have a gym. I got my kids. So that's just a little bit quick about me in case somebody didn't know. I also wanted to introduce, we have some of our members from our team here. Not everyone's here. James Meggs has his camera off. I think he had to jump on a quick call he had mentioned. He's been a realtor on our team for I don't even know.
6
I'm gonna
years
go with
or more.
6, 7 years, I was gonna say. James actually and I have known each other for over 20 years. So we kind of sound like an old married couple if you hear us talking, but 20 years of friendship, that's what you get.
So he's like the work husband.
He's my work husband, yes. Yeah. And when I give James silent treatment, he knows.
Another one.
It's all right. I can handle it. And then we got Tim Hong on our team. We're going to call him Mr. Kitchener, actually. He covers a lot of Kitchener, Waterloo area. He does a lot of investing on the side as well with Forex trading, and has multiple properties as well. And he's like a black belt kind of guy, right? Or double black belt. I don't even know how you get double, but anyway, yeah.
Don't mess with him.
Yeah. Don't mess with him. And then Paul Young is on the call as well. And Paul's been a real estate agent for 6 years, but he's new to on our team as an agent. We've known you though for a while now.
Yeah, for more than a year.
You're showing up. Yeah, you're showing up in my Facebook memories now. I'm like, whoa.
Nice.
We're starting to go back. So, so I wanted to introduce them as well because we're all here together as a team. And any questions any might have, or if you're hearing any of us at any time. Okay, so now on to our guest speaker. I have Manny Cabral. Manny, where's Matt? No Matt today.
He's running around. I'm keeping him busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matt is Manny's son, and you'll see him at a lot of the projects as well that we have underway. But Manny is an investor himself, contractor, has many properties here in Hamilton. He's got properties Hamilton, Barrie, all over. I'll let him actually talk a little bit more about that. And he's my go-to guy for contracting work, and not just because I like the finishes he does and because he's paying me to say this, but because I'm just kidding, but because he's like a team member. He's really just it's part of our team, and we're in it the long haul. And any kind of questions my clients have and want to talk to him about, any troubles, maybe even that's not related to any of the work that you've done. We've had stuff come up, and Manny's right there to help. So definitely a true team player with us. So appreciate that. And Manny also has a brand new pizza oven. Everyone follows him on Instagram. He's got a new pizza oven in the back. So we're waiting for, well, you know what, next call we're going to do, not a Zoom call. Okay, we're all going to your backyard. We're going to have pizza and rum and Coke. So if anyone sees
there you go.
Them,
well, there's always lots of that today. I mean, I think I ran down to the pizza place today to pick up like 40 doughs to keep in the freezer. So make sure I've got it all the time.
You're not tossing them yourself. Come on.
Yeah.
And And then we have, and Manny has a boat as well. So you'll see a lot of that, him out on the boat, working on his flips and his projects and his wholesaling and everything that you're doing. So I'm going to let you actually introduce yourself, because you'll be able to describe everything you do so much better than I do. And then also real quick, Chris Hook joined the call as well, and he is also on our team. And he's been with us for years and joined our team recently as a realtor. And he is also into investing outside of real estate. And I don't even know if I'm wording that right. Is that right? What is it called that you do? Commerce?
You got it. No, you got it, Tammy. All good.
Okay. So yeah, many different streams of income on this team. Okay, go ahead, Manny. Yes, please take it away for a bit.
Well, what do you want to know? I mean, I've been in the construction business probably most of my life. I used to design, build computer room systems for major companies, TD, Ontario Blue Cross. I actually designed and built all their computer systems years ago. Anyway, that's where I started in construction. Most of my construction was commercial stuff. I didn't do too much residential. And then I got into some residential, then ended up getting the second suites and all that stuff. But I guess I do a little bit of everything. I consider myself the second suite construction expert. We do house flips. We do wholesaling. I'm an investor myself. I have a bunch of rental properties throughout Hamilton and Barrie. So I do a little bit of everything. But I mean, I consider myself an investor that happens to own a construction company. Let's put it that way. Right. So construction companies basically is not an investment for me. It's just active income. It's probably the least or the smallest part of my business is the construction side. Everything else is a lot more important when it comes to investing and flipping and wholesaling and all that stuff. But that's me. I love to boat. I love to play music. I love to fly model aircraft. I got too many hobbies. I don't have enough time to keep up with them.
I forgot about your planes you fly. If anyone actually sees, I saw it one time and I thought, what? I thought the plane is not, it's massive. How big is that thing?
Oh, they're all different sizes. I actually have my private pilot's license as well, but I haven't actively flown probably in, I guess, 5 years.
Yeah, but that plane that you fly with the remote control, how many feet long is that thing?
I've got ones that are 6 foot wingspan. I've got some that are 12 foot wingspan. Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No,
Yeah.
that's great.
But that's me.
No, that's wonderful. And so Manny and I, we met a few years ago, and you know, I knew him as part of the team as a contractor that we would turn to and use. And yeah, we just got chatting a lot and close, and been able to work on a lot of projects together. I'd have to say one of the more exciting ones that we did was your flip project that you did down in Hamilton. So you bought that as a wholesale, right?
Oh,
If you want to tell about that on Holton.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool project just because it was an old house and it turned out really nice.
Yeah. So and I know that one came, it was actually put out there to people, and some people had passed on it. I remember hearing people talking about, yeah, I remember seeing this come across, and they had passed. And anyway, you had scooped that one up, decided to take it on and do a flip renovation with it, and have me on to help sell it afterwards. And I remember when we were at the house, we saw the old owners who grew up in the house actually walk by and came in and took a look around. So it was actually nice to see, and they were happy with the changes you made. So Manny had bought it for, I think it was $430 something in and around there. 436.
430.
Yeah, and we sold it for, and he put a lot of money into it. I know you put, he did it up to the nines for sure. We had a Toronto buyer come along and they wanted to invest. It was down in the St. Clair area, two and a half story home. And we sold it for $754. So it was a really great project. So a lot of great projects like that you get your hands on, right? So I'm just going to let everyone know too. So right now, just again, because I know some other people have joined the call, again, we're recording this. So if you guys have any privacy issue, keep the camera off, but feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions at any time. Okay. So this is just going to be all of us going back and forth. I really want you guys to get involved and be able to ask what you want as well. I'm not sure what's going on with the computer, but David Tudo's tried to get in here 18 times. Everyone's seen that pop up.
Yeah, I'm trying to admit him, but he keeps popping up.
Yeah. Okay, I'll let you keep trying. So, let's get started with some of the questions. There's some questions that we have put together as a team, some things that we were talking about, some things that we see, and then maybe you can elaborate and tell us what you're seeing as well. I guess one of the things we're wondering, and not even just specific to you, but in general, I mean, if we have someone and we're looking for a contractor, what can you tell us are some key points to look for?
Well, the number one thing is to make sure that they're visible, right? I mean, I always tell people if you want to hire someone reputable, make sure you can find them. So, I mean, if they're not on social media, if they don't have reputable websites, if they don't have, references. I mean, references sometimes ain't that important because you don't know who those references are, right? The other thing is talking to other investors that have used them, or to find out who they've done work for and talk to those investors. But I think the number one key is to make sure they're very highly visible, because some of them are not, right? You want to make sure, that they've got a following, they're easy to find, they've got a website. And then it's finding out what work that they did, and maybe go visit those projects as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad in every industry, and you're going to find a good contractor, you're going to find a bad contractor. The same with accountants and lawyers, and you name it. So it's important.
Realtors.
Yeah, it's important to find that. And the other thing is communication. I mean, I even run into it with some of the people that I deal with that I maybe contract out to do some type of work where they don't communicate, and that drives me nuts, right? I mean, if you're a client and you're trying to get a hold of the contractor, one of the things I hear is, guy's gone missing, I haven't heard from him in 3 days. It's really bad. So communication is a big key. At the end of the day, you only get what you pay for. Like, you can't get, I know everyone wants that inexpensive job, but you can't get it cheap, and you can't get it high quality, and you can't get it done quickly. Those three things just don't work out. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, and James, actually, I think you and I can say that we've seen that as well, where we've had other contractors that have been wanting to work with us, and they've been easily just showing us their portfolio, or like you said, maybe they'll have a reference or somebody that can speak on their behalf. But at the same time, yeah, where is that coming from? And I mean, that's true to say to anybody else here that's on the call. I mean, you don't know me that well. You don't know, some people might not know what our word is, and I get that. But if you're doing the extra research, and like you said, and looking into more things, you'd be able to dig into that. Hey, James, remember we've seen a few.
For sure.
Few.
And I mean, the big thing and the nice thing is we have such a big sample size now over the past 5 years doing renovations and duplex conversions in particular. So it's not like one-off jobs. It's like, probably, we can say from the large investor population that we work with, it's 30 to 50 jobs right over the past 5 years. So it's not just one or two. So, and that's what you're looking for when you're looking for references for any contractor. It's the bigger the sample size, the better, not just one or two Google reviews that maybe somebody paid 5 stars for.
I think he muted himself right at the end there.
Yeah, the other thing to consider is to try to find out what their after service is like. If you're talking to clients that they've done work for, to find out, well, if they had an issue, if they had a problem, did they come back to fix it? Were you able to get in touch with them? So there's a lot that factors in, right? I mean, we respond to calls. I mean, I take calls on Saturdays and Sundays, and people think I'm crazy, but I think it's important, right, to do that. You want to be able to have your clients get a hold of you, especially if they've got an important question. It's a big frustrating thing not to be getting a hold of somebody, and I feel the same way if I'm trying to get a hold of somebody. I tell that to my sub trades. If I call you, if I got a question, and if you don't respond in a timely manner, I'm not using you again, plain and simple, right?
Yeah.
So communication is a huge key.
Yep, definitely. Paul, do you want to tackle maybe some of the questions that come in the chats? There's one
Sure.
that
Is that all the questions you got for me?
That's it. See you later. No, we'll mix it up a little bit because we're getting some questions in the chats, which is great. I don't know if somebody wants to unmute themselves. Maybe we can ask them that first. Let me see what the first one is here. I think something came up here from Raj. Raj, I'm not sure if you want to unmute yourself. Now we can read it out loud.
Yeah, so my question is, what are some common contracting models for a first-time investor aiming to make it an owner-occupied rental? I'll give a little bit of background. So I attended Evan's BRRRR method seminar like a few months ago, and I did some research afterwards. The most complex and hard to manage variable in that equation is the renovation to me, at least it sounded like, because I'm doing this for the first time. So that's why I had that question. I came across something called joint venture, in which it's like a partnership structure.
Mhm.
I just wanted to understand what's the industry standard. However, I'm from London, Ontario, so
Right.
something that's specific to Southwestern Ontario. What's this industry standard?
Yeah. So you want me to elaborate a little bit on what a joint venture is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
is that the common model that people follow?
Well, it's common, but not everybody follows it. I mean, so a joint venture is great for, let's say, investors who are busy in their lives. They got busy jobs. You don't want to you don't want to run out there and look for a property, look for a contractor, do the renovations, go to the bank, get the refinancing, take care of tenants and stuff like that. So, like my joint venture structure is pretty typical of a lot of other investors, where when I got a joint venture interested in doing a deal together, I look for that property that's going to cash flow. The one advantage I have is I try to find properties off market, because I spend thousands of dollars every month advertising off market to buy properties. So we're typically going into some of these with a little bit of equity, which is important. But going back to the joint venture, you got a money partner and you got a working partner. So you're putting up all the capital. So 20% down on the property, you're coming up with renovation money. Your partner's looking for the property, finding the property, taking care of all the renovations, managing it, getting it done, dealing with the bank, getting them back for your appraisals, the key is to get you as much money back as possible. So you have as little invested in that property, creating yourself a much higher return on investment. At that point, we also tenant the property, we manage the tenant. So there's basically nothing for you to do. It's a 50-50 joint venture. You're the capital partner. The other one's the working partner. And I can tell you the capital partner is the easiest, even though some people may say, well, why are we putting up all the money? Well, we're doing all the work. You're still getting a massive return on your money. And the key is to get you as much of that money back, so your return is as high as possible. We're doing all the managing. You're not answering tenant calls. You're not doing any of that. Now with my joint ventures, the way I've got them structured is for 5 years or 25% appreciation. So what that means, every 5 years or 25% appreciation on the property, whichever comes first, right? And that's organic appreciation. It's not included. Like when you renovate the property and refinance it, it's appreciated, but that's not organic. So you got to look at 25% organic appreciation or 5 years, whichever one comes first. At that point, you sit down with your partner and decide, do we want to keep the property? Do we want to sell the property? Do we want to take the money, put it somewhere else? And like for a partner like myself, there's no immediate money or funds to be made on this deal right now. My money is all long-term. It's when we sell that property, right? You're splitting 50-50 cash flow, but that's irrelevant. So for us, it's all long-term. So that's what a joint venture is. And that allows you to actually get more properties without having any headaches, any issues. Someone else is managing it, and you're getting still, with my deals, you're still getting typically about a 30% return on your money yearly when you take into appreciation, mortgage pay down, and cash flow. So it's still a massive return that you're not going to get in the bank. So, and again, the key is to get you as much back as possible, so your return is as high as possible. So that's what a joint venture is. It's basically owning real estate without having any headaches from your end.
Okay, thank you, Manny.
No problem.
Thanks, Manny. Before we actually continue, I just want to say Matt Cabral is here.
Oh, finally.
Yeah. So Manny's
part-timer
son, yeah, Matt, who he basically does everything, has joined the call. Matt, when you turn your camera on, you having a bad hair day? Don't be shy.
couldn't find his right
Might be
hat.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't have a cash flow hat like you do. That's all. So I also wanted to ask you, because I know one of the questions that we also get is when you were talking earlier about communication and how key that is. And that's something that, us as a team, we like to stay in touch. I mean, Manny, I think you and I talk like, 4 times a week. I think I talk to you more than my husband.
Yeah, probably.
And communication is definitely key. But what are some of the things that you do, or some things maybe everyone can look for in being able to stay up to date with their projects? So you've got this massive project on the go, something that they can, so they know where you're at.
So we've got software that tracks the project. So every project has a name on it. There's a link that goes out to the client. There's links that go up to the sub-trades. So we try to keep all our communication on that software. So if I need something done in one of the trades, it's communicated through there. It's logged. They get a notification. They notify the system back when it's done so that I can notify the next trade. But what it does, it looks after all the scheduling. So you have access to that where you could actually log in during the day and look at the schedule and see when the drywall is happening and when the electrical is happening or when the plumbing is happening. And if something gets altered and schedules change, it'll actually shift everything. So if the plumber is delayed by 2 days, it'll automatically just fall back and delay everything else by 2 days. But you could go on there and check on that. And we also use that for all our change orders, contracts, all that stuff. So you can access that through anywhere in the world. We also load up pictures on there, progress pictures of what's going on. So you could get on your laptop and look at the new pictures that were loaded up, or look at the schedules, or you can also communicate with the contractor back and forth through there as well. So it really keeps on top of what's going on. And obviously it's only as good as the person that's inputting it. So that's probably me. So I try to be as active on there as possible. And some customers don't even use it. I'll send them the links and they never activate it. Right. So it's, some like it, some really don't care. They're too busy anyway. So it's just maybe a phone call every once or 2 weeks to see how things are going. But they have the capability of logging in there and seeing exactly what's going on with all the trades and what the schedule looks like. Right. So
I think that's awesome.
That's amazing.
It's very helpful. But you know what? In every project, things can go wrong. So, I mean, to say that we're perfect, we're absolutely not. The biggest key is to, when you have an issue or something happens, that you own up to it and you fix it. You don't stand there and make any type of excuses. You get on it, because sometimes something happens with an electrician or a plumber that you've got no control over, and it throws the schedule off by a few days. But you just got to keep on top of things. You got to own it, and you got to do whatever it takes to make it right. Right. So it's the key is to keep on top of it and just no excuses, just make it right.
Hey Manny, is that the access to available for all the customers that are using your renovation service, or is it only for
Yes.
JV partners?
No, it's not for JV. Well, it could be for a JV partner if you're undergoing a renovation, so you can see what's going on. But no, I use it for all my customers. It's just
That's awesome.
Standard software that once we sign a contract, or we send, like yesterday we signed a contract for renovation job up here, and I sent the link off right away, and it'll take us a few days to find out scheduling, and scheduling is tentative based on permits, right? Because we don't know when we're going to get permits. We only know what we can do until the point of getting a permit. So we'll do that work, and when we go on there, we'll schedule based on when we think we're going to get these permits. Based on past experience, we'll use those numbers. But if the permits don't come in and we can't do anything, obviously the schedules are going to change, and we'll get in there and we'll update that so the client is on top of it. But it's great for looking at videos and pictures and if stuff's been loaded up. But as I said, some customers don't even use it. They're just too busy or they don't care, right? But I think for the ones that really want to keep on top of things and they're not around, or they live far away, I think it's a great tool. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it, because it's not a cheap software.
Yeah, that's great. Like this is my first time hearing something that's by a contractor that's done online and giving like update status,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, we started using that about, I guess, a year ago.
great,
Yeah, that's wonderful.
awesome.
Nice too. I mean, I'm not surprised, obviously, that's out there with technology now and so on, but definitely not everyone is using it. And it's a nice option for our clients, some, that don't want to be bugging too much, but yet still, we do these projects, and they're, whether them be a flip project or a second suite conversion or any kind of renovation, it's still a lot of money that you're putting forward, and you want to know where things are at. You want to be able to, be on top of that. So it's nice to be able to just kind of log into something, see where things are at, and then if there's any questions, go from there. And it also allows you to not have maybe a million phone calls, where you can just type in or address what needs to be done, and then, to carry on with your work, which is what we want too, right? So, and talking about like delays, so tell us what you're seeing right now with delays as far as COVID.
Well, I mean, as you know, we didn't do anything for a couple of months. We were shut down because we did as much as we could without permits. It's all over the place. We're working on 2 out in Hamilton. That one we had a permit within, I guess, a month, and the other one has been over 2 months and we still don't have a permit. So I know Andy is still trying to push that for this week, but it's It's all over the place. Some of, the planners and examiners are all busy, and you just walk into the city. It's made it a lot more difficult. I know everything is done online. I know I'm applying for a permit right now for a flip I'm doing in Midland. And I just call the city. You can't go in there, but I talk to the inspector because you got to do everything online. And I know what happens. Things go online. It's a mess. It's difficult to get communication back and forth is horrible. So he says, honestly, just let me know when you're coming, and I'll get your drawings at the door. So they're pretty good. And I don't think I'd be able to do that in Hamilton, but in Midland, they actually just said, meet me at the door and I'll grab your drawings so you're not waiting.
Nice.
But it's all over the place. You don't know. Like sometimes you think you'll have a permit in 2-3 weeks, and when it goes back because they want a small change, it goes back to the bottom of the pile, and it just takes forever. But
What about the supplies though?
well, supplies it was horrible getting supplies because we had to wait forever. I had Home Depot orders that we actually canceled after 7-8 days because they never came through. Right, and then you go to the Home Depots, and things are getting better now. It's not as bad, but a month ago, it was horrible getting stuff. It's great to say, well, you can just order it online and come pick it up. Well, you order it online and it's 3 days before they call you to pick it up. That's massive delays, right? So, but it is a lot better now. The flow is a lot easier. There's no big lineups at the Home Depots anymore or other suppliers. Some of the smaller suppliers were better, so we used to go to those. I used to avoid the Home Depot like the plague because it was horrible. We don't have time to and sometimes you don't know what you need 3 days down the road, right? So it's tough to pre-order everything, but it's a lot better now. So it's almost back to normal, but some of the stuff is low on supply.
I would hate to go to or put an order and wait 3 days and then realize, damn it, I forgot to order this.
Oh, it's horrible. I ordered stuff from Home
Weekend.
Depot that I ended up canceling and just getting it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
It was nuts. Even appliances were horrible. Try to order a freezer during COVID, right? We bought an extra freezer and it had nothing to do with COVID. We just had the room that we wanted to put an extra freezer in the house, order one from an online appliance company, and it was back ordered for 3 months. They couldn't get it. And we ended up just ordering on Costco and had it in 10 days. So it's different suppliers, different timelines, but the timelines are a lot better now. Supplies are a lot better now. And with stage 3 happening now, it's going to be even that much easier to get. So it hasn't been a big problem right now for supplies. It's getting almost back to normal.
Yeah. Aaron, do you want to unmute yourself? I think you have a question here. If not, maybe you can't. Let's see. Here it is.
Hey, Tammy, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Great, just had a quick question for a relative newbie. When you're hiring on a contractor to do a second suite conversion, what's the sort of process for payment, or what's the payment schedule? I imagine obviously you're not fronting all that cash up front. How does it work?
Well, I can't speak for the other contractors. I can only speak for the way we do it. My payment structure is 30, 30, 30, and 10. So before I start is 30%. So we have different progressions of the work. When we get to a certain point of the work, it's in the contract, it's another 30%. And yeah, you're right. We can't fund the project because I know I've run into clients who said, well, can you do the work first and I'll pay you later? Well, no, because I'm not a bank, unless you want me to charge you 10% on your money. Right. So, and if we have multiple projects going on, I'd be having to go to the bank to borrow money to do these projects. So obviously, we have to always keep ahead. So we always have to be 30% ahead. So it's 30, 30, 30. And then the final 10 is we usually hold back 10 until we got an inspection from the city. The permits are closed. Everything's good. You do a walkthrough with your client, and then that 10% has to be released.
Perfect. Thank you. I guess that kind of goes into a little bit when people were asking about holding back money, but I guess that last 10% is them.
Yeah, it's not a real holdback. Holdback is something else, and that's typical in the commercial industry. And I was in that industry where there's holdbacks for 45 days and 60 days. No, there's no reason for a holdback. If the job is done, it's complete. You've done your walkthrough with your client. The city has closed the permits. That 10% has to be released. And there's no big margins. I know a lot of people think there's these massive margins in this type of work. There actually isn't. And it's probably my lowest profit business that I have is the renovation business. So my flipping business and all the other stuff I'm doing in wholesaling is way more profitable. And that's why we tend to try to find clients that suit us as well. The same thing as finding, clients that suit the contractor. Not everybody suits each other. I sometimes have a conversation with a client and I'm not comfortable doing the job for them, and I won't. And it could be vice versa. Maybe someone talks to me and they don't like me or something for, I don't know why. and who knows, maybe they won't use me for that. Like or sometimes it's just money. So-and-so is 20,000 cheaper. Can you match it? No. I mean, my prices are very competitive and we don't have those margins. I often tell people, when you find someone that cheap, they don't have a business. They've got a job. They've got a hammer and a toolbox and they're out there on site working themselves. I don't do that. I mean, my job is to go out and find jobs, look after them, manage the trades, communicate with the clients and do all of that. And if you're on the job with your hammer and your toolbox, that's not going to happen. You don't have a business, you have a job.
Hey, Manny, a quick question for you. So for let's say a gut job on a basement, assuming you can get the permit, how long does it usually take for a project like that?
Second suite conversions, as long as everything runs smoothly and the permits come through and all that stuff, it's typically a 90-day project.
90 days.
From start to finish.
And with your 30-30-30 structure, do you phase it up by each month then? Is that
well, no, it's phased out on the amount of work that you're doing. I mean, we could be 2 weeks into the job and already be looking for the second payment already because we've got the framing, electrical, spray foam, plumbing's all roughed in. At that point, your second payment is already due. Right.
Gotcha.
So it's all timeline based basically, or how much you've done on the project. Right. Some projects may be a little bit slower because you're waiting for inspections or whatnot, and some may go really smooth and they go really quick.
Right.
But basically within those 90 days, you're paying all your money. I mean, we want to get that inspection closed and done as quick as possible because we don't want any holdups on it either. Right?
Great. Let's go to the question that was on this group chat. We have Alan. Alan, do you want to unmute yourself and just ask your question? Alan Zhang?
Wait,
Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay. Actually, if you don't mind, just want to kind of take a step back regarding joint venture. I just had a quick question about that. So, Manny, let's say if you guys are looking at selling the property, let's say you're 5 year in or whatever, you're at that appreciation.
Yeah.
But one of you decide that you want to keep the property. What do you normally do in that circumstance?
Well, you'd probably get the property appraised if the other one wants out, and you would buy them out. I mean, typically when I do a joint venture, I want to keep these properties as long as possible. I don't want out in 5 years. So you can do that, or you can find another joint venture partner to take over that partner if you want out.
Okay, so essentially whatever their half would be, you just buy them out without.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, you just get a fair appraisal on what the property's worth, and you'd buy that partner out.
Okay, great. So yeah, my question that I put in the chat is regarding flipping properties. So typically when you're looking to flip a property to get the most out of your investment, do you usually recommend to renovate it to kind of make it look similar to the comparables in that area? Or do you go in the other direction and kind of make it stand out by going with a little bit more higher end renovations?
I make mine stand out. I don't care about the comparables. I mean, I look at the comparables because I want to see what's selling and what I'm up against, but I want to stand out from everybody else, right? So it's, you want someone to walk in there and the first impression is huge. I don't want it just to be compared to the property across the street that's being sold, right? Or it's for sale. I want mine to sell first. So I like to make it look as nice as possible without going overboard, because you can actually over renovate a property and blow your brains and not get your money out. So you got to be careful. Like your property is only going to get so much on the market, regardless of what you do. You got to do the right renovations as it comes to kitchens and bathrooms. But I don't care what I only care what the other ones look like when I'm looking to see what I'm going to pay for my property. But I don't really look at their finishes and say, well, I'm going to use the same kitchen cabinets or I'm going to use the same countertop. We have our own design and our own ideas that we put into each individual property, and they're all different. And we just run that way.
So how do you define overboard? Like if somebody's got laminate, do you like maybe don't go hardwood and invest?
Well, no, it's going back to the comparables. So if the comparables are selling at let's say for $500,000, you don't want to renovate your property to the point where now you've got to sell it for $600,000 to get some of your money back, right? You still want to be within that range, maybe a little bit more. Like for instance, I sold a house where the comparables were $450. I sold it for $515, right? So 65,000 over what the comparables were selling because my finishes were a little bit nicer. I didn't spend an extra $65,000. I might have spent only an extra 25, but I've got an extra 65 getting that. But at some point, you got to stop. You can't renovate to the point where, like I mentioned, it's 500 and now you got to sell yours for 600, and it gets to be pretty tough to show that difference. And so you got to look at your finishes, right? I mean, we have finishes that are really nice and some of them are not really expensive. You know, quartz tops are not expensive anymore. You know, shaker style kitchens and vinyl luxury flooring is not expensive. The expensive stuff a lot of times is in what you can't see. The plumbing, the electrical, all that stuff behind the walls, that sometimes is very expensive. And that's, you know, and you got to make sure that's done correctly. The other thing is making sure you're taking permits on these flips because a lot of clients, like the one we just sold up here in Barrie, they were asking for, you know, ESA and for plumbing permits and all that stuff. It makes it difficult to sell that property if you get asked those questions and you don't have them and they know the property was just renovated. So very important to do it the right way, use the right channels, and get permits on these properties that you're going to be working on or flipping.
So even cosmetic renovations, you should be getting these ESA permits. And
well, it depends on what cosmetic is. If you're talking about paint and flooring, no. But as soon as you're touching plumbing and electrical, structural, yes. So even if you're adding a bathroom or if you're changing the plumbing in a house, you still need a permit for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was a great question. I think Matt's trying to join in too, but he's having a little bit of technical difficulties. I think it's the
yeah. He's not as computer savvy as me.
As his dad. Okay.
We had another person having problems with David, so I suggested to David try it on a different account, Zoom. I don't know if I can do that as well.
Cool. I wanted to ask you a question too, because we get a lot of different answers. Maybe it's preference as to what clients are looking for. So some of you on here know, in case somebody of you don't know, of course we do all kinds of different investment properties as realtors, right? We're looking at single families, we do the flips, student rentals, duplex conversions is a big one. And when we're doing that, we have to talk about, should we have 1 meter, 2 meters, or 3 meters on the property? Mm-hmm. And you and I have actually discussed this a little bit about having the 2 meter. Should we go back to the 1 meter? We've had a couple of times where there hasn't been enough electricity, remember, on the street to supply. So we had to wait. There was some delays, and we talked about the 1 meter option. And then a lot of, especially property managers, will throw out that 3rd meter option. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that and the difference. And
yeah, I mean,
what your thoughts are.
We were separating a lot of hydro and a lot of meters. The problem with separation is it's never 100% because the items like the air conditioning is either going to be on one circuit or the other. So now you've got the issue where the upstairs tenant says, well, I'm paying for all the air conditioning costs and the basement guy is not. Well, yeah, that's right, because technically the basement doesn't need air conditioning. So they're not going to pay for that. And then you'd put the furnace motor on the basement and not the upstairs, because that's the one that's going to use the most. That's to keep it as fair as possible. But I mean, you can go as far as putting a 3rd meter in. So a 3rd meter would be a common meter, right? So with the common meter, you put things on there like the air conditioning, hot water tank, exterior lights, things like that. But now at that point, you're monitoring that and you're just going to add it on to your rent anyway. So what's the sense of doing that? It does, to me, it does. I know property managers love it. It makes their life a lot easier. But now you've got 3 meters, 2 are in the tenant's name, but that 3rd common meter is still in your name. So if they use a lot of AC, you're still going to get that bill. So you're going to have things in your lease as to minimize the cost of that. So I see a lot of investors now just going back to splitting the hydro, forgetting the 2 meters and doing a 60-40 split. and that's it. I mean, what I do in some of my property, some I have meters, split meters, and some I don't. And the ones that I don't, I do a 60-40 split, but I collect the utilities on a monthly basis. So for instance, let's say the main floor is 1,500 plus it's 250 for utilities, and the basement might be 1,300 and 150 for utilities. That's their 60-40 split. But I reconcile that every quarter. So once I get the bills, if they've used more than that, they owe me. If they've used less, I credit them back. And it's pretty easy to manage that. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting the 3 meters. And don't forget the 3 meters is going to cost, you've got that monthly fee on every single meter. So now you've got an extra meter on the common meter that's going to have a fee from Electra or wherever your hydro supplier is. But now you're still taking care of that bill, and that you're basically doing a 60-40 with that with your tenants anyway. So you might as well do a 60-40 on the 1 meter.
So it sounds like your preference is maybe the 1 or 2 meters. I mean, I guess too, if you're, yeah.
My preference right now, like I've got properties at 1 meter and I've never had any issues with it. I've got properties with 2 meters, which is fine as well. But I've had the issues where one tenant is saying, why is the AC on my meter? Well, because you're on the main floor, right? So, and if you just do a 60-40 split, that solves a lot of those problems. But
Manny, what's the cost to do the 2 meters versus the 1? Is there a significant difference in cost?
There isn't a big significant number, in cost. I mean, if you're going to do, let's say 3 meters as opposed to do the 1 meter, it might cost you an extra $3,000 to do that. And so it's not huge, but it all depends on what you want to manage. Do you want to manage, 1 common meter? Do you want to manage 2 meters? I mean, you can start splitting, water and all kinds of things. I mean, you can get right down nitty gritty if you want to, but if you're going to do that, why have a common meter? Because now you're still responsible for paying that, and that's just going to go on your rent. So it's not, the common meter usually isn't a 60-40 split on it. It's just the number that you tack onto your rent when you rent your property. But if they're using a lot more when the bills are coming in, you're paying for it.
Right.
But it's all preference. Some people still prefer to have 3, some still prefer to have 2, some will say the hell with it, I'll just do a 60-40 split.
That's great, thank you. If anyone else has any other questions, do let us know. I have a couple here myself too that I'm.
Tammy, there was one asking about counterpart in London. Manny, do you have a counterpart in London
No,
that you can recommend?
no,
Okay.
honestly, I don't. I mean, we're servicing only the cities that I know that I can service efficiently. I get calls to go to Kitchener and Brantford, and we just won't go there because I know, I mean, it's not that I can't do them. I won't be able to do them efficiently, and I don't want to get into that. So if I can't do a project efficiently and try to get it done on time, I'm not going to do it at all because it's not going to be good for me and my name, right? So I try to stick to Hamilton because we got a crew there, and we got a crew that we work with up in Simcoe County. So these 2 areas work out great. And that way I got Matt looking after all the stuff in Hamilton, and I look after all the stuff in Simcoe.
Yeah, it's great. I know poor Raj is, Rajesh is in London needing someone. We have, I think someone will be able to send you. And they, you know what, I see them all over, Justin, all over, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right. James, do you know his last name? Concroft? I don't know if I'm saying it right. He's all over Instagram, and he's very well known out there. I'm sure he's going to have some contractors and that to help.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some good ones out there. I just, off the top of my head, I don't know.
They're not Manny, but hey.
No, they're not me.
Not Manny. I'm
They're
Matt.
they're better than Manny.
Right. One of the big things that we get when we're talking to with our clients, we're going out, often they'll want more than 1 quote, which is fine, right? That's great. Obviously, Manny's great for us to go to because we've used him for so many years. Like, it's not just, like you said, looking at somebody else's, recommending you. We know firsthand what you do and how you do it. And so definitely someone that we'd highly recommend. And people want more than 1 quote, and that's fine. And that's great, and by all means should do that. But when you are looking at quotes, I mean, one of the things you and I talk about is really making sure that you're comparing apples to apples, because some people will get these quotes and it's all about the numbers, just the numbers, and they kind of miss some of that fine print in between and the specifics of maybe what 1 quote has more than the other, and where you can actually make some adjustments if necessary. But maybe talking about that, comparing, apples to apples?
Yeah, well, that's very important. So one of the biggest issues when contractors are quoted, and especially if they're not that experienced in doing second suites, is they're not sure what to quote because there's no actual scope of work. So usually they call someone out and say, hey, I'm buying this house. Can you tell me what it's going to cost? But they're not going off a scope of work. So I always tell the clients it's very important, like the proper way to actually quote a job is to wait until you actually have permit drawings and not before, right? I mean, you can get an idea. And I mean, usually our numbers are very, very close because we've done so many of them. I can tell you what it's going to cost just having a quick look at it. But it's always good to have drawings if you're going to have multiple quotes with a scope of work. So that way, when you're getting multiple offers, they're all quoting the same thing. Because I've seen quotes where, I mean, for us, we use spray foam in all our basements. I've seen quotes that have, just pink bat insulation, or they're not using quartz countertops. There's a bunch of things that don't compare, and those things make a difference in the price. There's a few $1,000s in there, right? So you got to look at that. I've seen quotes where, they have a budget for electrical, they have a budget for plumbing. It's not a solid number. Well, that's not a quote. So that quote may look good in the interim, but then you get the job later on and you find out, well, no, our budget for $8,000 of plumbing, that was only a budget. Now that's 12. The electrical is 15 and not 10. So you got to watch those things. You got to compare apples to apples when you're getting quotes. And yes, some contractors are still going to be a little bit more expensive than others. So you got to look at that, and you only get what you pay for. So just make sure. I mean, and as you know, we've actually taken over. I'm not going to mention any projects or anything, but we have taken over some projects in the past that were started by other contractors that bid against me and got the job. And I didn't get it because I was a little bit higher. And in the end, we went back to help those customers and redo their jobs, and it cost them a lot more money. And then I had some that were sort of, at the time we were doing jobs in St. Catharines. And then I stopped just because it wasn't feasible. But we had a client, the same thing. Bad contractor called me to do it. I originally priced it, but unfortunately I was just too busy and couldn't help him. And he was kind of pissed off at me that I couldn't do it. Like, what do you want me to do? I just can't do it now. I mean, it's unfortunate and I don't blame people I always encourage people to get more. I don't want to be the only guy pricing the job. I think you should have 2 or 3 quotes, right? And do your due diligence, talk to people like Tammy and James and so on and so forth, and get their opinions, but go on social, check their Facebook, their Instagram, check their websites, talk to people that they've done work for, and find out if they're happy, right? So there's a lot of things there's a lot of due diligence you can do to make sure you've got the right contractor. But I can tell you out there that some of these contractors are cheaper because they're not running a business. They just got a job. They're here today. You might need them a year down the road. Guess what? They're nowhere to be found. So you have to be visible, and you have to be reputable, and you got to be there for your clients even afterwards. And we always are.
Manny, just bring up, so you brought up a topic here. So in terms of warranty, right? Mm-hmm. Is there any standards about, or what we should, like a investor should be looking for in terms of warranty of work?
Well, it depends what it is. I mean, everything's warranted for a year. I mean, if you got an issue with any of the work that we did with plumbing or electrical or any of that stuff, we're going to be back to fix it. I mean, we've been back to fix jobs a year and a half later where the client called and says, oh, the corner bead's cracked. And most clients are going to say, well, it's not my problem. It's going to shrink. And it does, right? We're back to fix it. Fix the corner bead, paint it. You keep them happy because you know what? It costs you a little bit of money to do these things, but in the end, you get a lot more because you get a lot more repeat business. You get a lot of referral business, and 99% of my business is all referral and repeat business. It's not coming on my website, because a lot of the work that even comes in my website, it's kind of weird to say, but I probably turn a lot of it down just by the type of communication that goes back and forth. A lot of people have a different expectation on what their legal suite's going to cost. Like, I'll have somebody call me and say, I've got a 1,000 square foot bungalow. I want to do a brand new legal suite. I'm like, do you have any idea what your budget is to do this legal suite? And it's like, well, it's $25,000. Well, I'm not the guy for you. Right. So you get a lot of that. I mean, the expectations, and I don't blame them. They just don't know. Right. I mean, right. They just don't know. So so a lot of them get sticker shock because they just have no idea. It's not their fault. They just don't realize the cost of stuff. Right.
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of times an investor would ask us, how much does it cost to renovate a basement? like gut job, and we typically give them about $80,000 to $100,000.
Yeah.
And the next question would be, what's the actual work that's going to go into it? Sounds a little bit high. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what's
that's a
so that they can
typical,
appreciate the actual amount of work that's gone into it.
Yeah. So the typical average basement out there, an 800-900 square foot basement, it's probably coming in at about 85 to 90,000 plus HST. But you're talking about a brand new unit. I mean, you're gutting the place right down to the bare walls. You're doing spray foams, all new frame and all new drywall, new plumbing, new electrical, new services, sometimes upgrading to 200 amps, most of the time upgrading to 200 amps, having 2 separate panels. It's basically a brand new floor in your house, right? So there's nothing that's left there that's old. It's typically gutted right to the bare bones. You're starting from fresh. It's brand new 900 square feet of living space. And most of the money, a lot of the money is in plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Those are probably the expensive items. The drywall and stuff is obviously cheaper, and the flooring, all that stuff. But those are big priced items, and they are very expensive. Millwork, if you want stuff that's nice, and quartz and stuff like that. But that's getting, shaker style cabinets, quartz countertops, luxury vinyl flooring, and as I mentioned, new plumbing, new electrical, all that stuff is new. So it's a brand new unit. So there is a lot that goes into it.
I want to go back to you for a second, what you were mentioning, Paul, with the warranty, and Manny, you had commented on that, I certainly wouldn't want anyone to ever take advantage of you. Like I said, we build these relationships, like you're part of the team, including with our clients, which we love. But just to tell a little story about that, we had a client who had bought one of, we did a flip for selling a duplex conversion. And I helped to sell it, and I was also representing the buyer. So I brought in this buyer, super great guy. It was his first duplex, and he put his tenants in. And then soon after that, there was a flood in the basement. And I remember right away they called you, right? You get a lot of the calls, probably actually right away, the panic calls. And right away you were on it. You said, okay, I'm sending out a plumber, and you had it. You had it taken looked at. A plumber had come out. They had taken a look at it. I'm not sure if it was the plumber or someone else that came out afterwards, found out that they pulled out a ton of baby wipes that the tenants were flushing down the toilet. Both tenants had babies. Yeah. Neither one of them wanted to admit it, but they were flushing the toilet. So that's actually one quick lesson to make sure you tell all your tenants, don't flush baby wipes. Actually, don't flush. Do not flush flushable wipes either.
So this is what happened when we talked to the tenants, and the one in the basement says, yeah, but I'm just using the flushable ones. I can tell you right now, they're not flushable. No. There was actually a big show the other day on TV about that. And they had an issue, I can't remember if it was out in Kitchener, it was actually on the news, where we're out in sewage. There was a massive issue with sewage. And they took out the equivalent of a school bus, and it was all wipes. Yeah. Right? So basically they were putting all the wipes down, and it got clogged out at the street, and just everything just backed up, and it was a mess. But I mean, we were there to try to help as much as possible. We got a plumber down there and got started right away. So. And
then found out that, it didn't have anything to do with your renovation, your plumber, your work, nothing like that. It was literally the tenant that came out. And I know because I asked that you never charged my client to send the plumber out, and you had to pay your plumber to come out. And again, it's not, because you look at it as you had that relationship with him, and he's been a repeat client since then with you and so on, which is great. So again, I wouldn't want anyone to take advantage, but at the same time, it goes to show the relationships that you build with your clients and speaks to that. So
yeah, this whole business is
Matt's on too, eh?
Is he?
Everyone see Matt there? Yeah, hi Matt.
No, I don't see him.
I told him.
Actually, that's a good opportunity. Can I just take a picture of you? Because
take a
Tammy always make a joke like, "Hey, every time I take a picture of her, everybody's just
every time they take a picture of me, I got like 3 chins going and funny face and fixing myself.
Okay, I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, smile. Perfect. Okay. Got it.
All right, thanks guys. I know I'm always yelling at the boys because I'm not thinking like a girl like me. Thanks Matt for coming out. That's Matt. So you'll see him at a lot of the jobs. I actually probably see him at the jobs more than Manny. Like he said, Manny's taking care of the trades, and Manny's out there on site with the trades as well. So was there any other questions or any of our team there?
Yeah, I guess my main question is, I think Manny touched on it. I think a lot of people here are maybe like when they first start out, not sure how to find and invest, find a contractor. And, you know, we touched on reference check, their socials. Are there any other questions they can ask to avoid getting into pitfalls? You know, because it's like, that's the only chance to really decide on, right?
I think the biggest key is to find a contractor who's reputable and's got a relationship with a lot of other investors and have done work for them, and maybe have dealt with you know, people a lot like yourselves, right? Because I mean, I know James and I have done a bunch of stuff, and Tammy and I have done a bunch of stuff, so they know what I do. So you really want to talk to people that have had work done by this contractor who said he's going to be an expert on second suite conversions. I mean, we've gotten to the point where a lot of the inspectors know us out there, and easy to deal with them because they know the work that we do, and they trust us. It's just doing your due diligence. I don't know how else to do it. I mean, I know I talked to one client that we took over a job from them, that he totally screwed up the job. And I asked him, why did you hire the guy? He says, because he just sounded so nice. He was so nice up front, and he was very polite, and he seemed very knowledgeable. But I says, did you check him out? They checked me out. No. So he just stopped that he was nice and he was cheaper. So that's not going to be a good combination. But talk to people that have legitimately used them, right? Not their uncle or their cousin that they gave you a number for. Right. So you got to be very careful with that. But it's and social is very important too. Like someone who's proud of their work and is out there in the community is out there. I know I'm on there every day, whether it's something to do to work or it's something to do personal. I'm always posting stuff. So I go to a lot of events where people know me and they come up to me and say, hey, I feel like I've known you for years, but we've never met. Right? It's just because I try to be on social and try to post everything good or bad or whatever it is, put it on there.
Right. I also find it very helpful. Like if you know somebody, like somebody who's referred you this contractor, actually ask your friend, can I just come to your place so I can see the finish, right? Because the picture is hard to tell the finish.
Yes.
But when you physically,
right, and then talk to that person to see, you know, what the relationship was like, what communication was like, if they had any little things afterwards, did they come back, did they avoid the phone call? Those things are all important.
Yeah. So can we just talk about some pitfalls? Like at least I can come to think about it. Like my mother had or my sister hired a contractor, and it was a really good deal. It was $60,000 for a whole floor.
Yeah.
But then after that, there's, you know, the tiles start cracking, and, you know, try to contact the contractor. It was like really hard. They're just kind of MIA after the rental, right? So it's something to watch for.
Yeah, 100%. Again, that's trying to find the right contractor, right? And you're going to find the cheaper contractor, like I said, who buys a box of tools and has a hammer and calls himself a contractor, and he's on the job. He's not a contractor. He's got a job. He's not, like, for me, I'm focused on creating a very successful business, ongoing business, going to be here for many years. It's not a job to me. That's why I'm not on the tools. If I was on the tools, it would be a job. Right. So I'm out there trying to promote the business, get work, find clients, communicate with them all. So I'm the communication guy, basically, trying to keep people happy. If there's an issue, if there's, you know, things in between, I always get there to try to solve them. And you've got to do that, and you got to keep on top of it, like really, really quick. So that's a big key, but I don't know, it's hard, but you're still going to find someone who's still going to say, well, I'm still going to go with that guy because he's 20 grand cheaper. And that's fine. Right. Like I say, I always tell people, like one of the clients had 4 quotes, and he ran into trouble, and he went with the lowest quote. And like, well, doesn't that tell you something? Like, you've had 3 quotes that are somewhat similar, you know, within 5% of each other. And then you got a quote that's, you know, tens of thousands lower. Like, it should, you know, give you some bells going off. Right. So you got to watch that stuff. Like, when you get those type of quotes, throw that one out. Right. And just work with the ones that are close together, and see which one you think is going to be a better fit for you once you've talked to other people that have done work, or once you check their website or their social, or had, you know, some communication with them. Forget the other guy. Like, stick with the guys that are very similar, because those are the ones that probably are pricing stuff very
more realistic, right?
And more realistic. That guy's not realistic. He's looking to get a deposit, and he could be gone. Right. And we did one of those where they got a deposit and they were gone.
Gotcha.
So Manny, there's a question in the chat here that's they're asking if you do a written legal agreement before beginning the work. I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll let you.
No,
I'll let you answer.
I have a contract for every job, right? So my contract outlines the work that we're doing. It outlines the progress payments. It outlines all of that, right? So that's all in there. And even when we're doing extras on the job, I don't do any extra without authorization from a client. So if something comes up or a snag comes up, or maybe a plumbing issue or something that wasn't in the price or something that happened, we always get a price on it first, talk to the client, and we send a change order out. He has to authorize it. If he doesn't authorize it, we're not doing the work, right? So there's a chain that you got to follow. So, and that's all legal, and that all happens through online software, right? As well as all our communication that goes through there. Or someone says, well, you didn't tell me that. I'm like, well, if you log in, here's the notes that we discussed. It's all in there, right? But as far as doing some type of legal, no, it's a contract that we work through. Right? It's a legal contract. It's all signed by the contractor and by the homeowner.
Manny, can you just talk about which areas that you guys do renovation, as well as which areas you do, JV partners?
Again, I try to stick to the areas that we easily manage. So it's the Hamilton area and Simcoe County. And Simcoe County is big. I mean, you've got, Cookstown, Innisfil, Barrie, Midland, Aurelia. There's a bunch of cities up here, right? So it's quite vast. So those are the two that we try to stick to. And the reason is I want to be able to be close to the deals that I own. I think it's because we manage our own, it's easier to manage.
Hey, Matt, what's it like working with your dad?
Oh, he loves it. He never sees me, he just gets a paycheck.
I can't complain.
What'd you say?
I can't complain.
He's on cameras. He's on camera, so he ain't gonna play.
It's being recorded.
It's all good. It's all good. I think we communicate well. I think we get along well. Which really works.
That's great.
So this is the other thing with contractors that are very important. So as you know, Tammy, some of these contractors don't have on-site management. Right, so they price a job, they come out, they do it, and one of them, we won't mention any names, but we know who he is. He couldn't manage his site because he had too much going on. He's trying to run everything himself. He's running around with a chicken out ahead, and he can't do things efficiently because he's got no eyes on the ground, right? And these things cost money, right? So we've got Matt out there, and it's the eyes on the ground when things are going wrong. I don't have to rush out to Hamilton to go fix a problem because we've got someone in Hamilton every day, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So we've always got management regardless of what's going on out there. So that's very important. Some contractors don't. And there's a cost of doing that, right? But at the same time, your job's going to get done more efficiently. You're going to have better communication. Things are going to run way smoother than trying to call a contractor who's gone missing for 3 days and he's the guy who does everything. So he's got nobody on site that he pays to look after stuff, right? So that's really, really important is on-site management, where a lot of them do not have it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's so great too because, I certainly I don't want to try and take advantage of you guys in any way, but there has been the odd property, the odd project where we've looked at it and I've even called you guys and either one of you, if you come out and met at the house, just to give a little bit of an idea. I mean, I always bug you guys and I'm always asking questions, breaking down prices, how much for this, how much for that, what do you think about this? But there's the odd property. I mean, we go into do a duplex conversion and we're gutting it. We have a good idea what the prices are going to be. When we go into something that's less work, then sometimes we need that breakdown to make sure our numbers are working. And you guys have come out, met us at the houses and gone through them together, which is nice.
And that's what I tell a lot of the clients that call me and say, well, can you come out and tell me what this is going to cost? I'm like, well, we're better off to come out once you've bought the property, because a lot of times you're just doing an inspection. Once you've got drawings and the thing is, you've already told them what you think it's going to be, or James, like I've had one, actually it was this week, that I told the client, you know what, if James told you a number, I can tell you right now that number is going to be very close, because I mean, you guys have done so many of them, and you've done so many of them with us that you already know more or less what the cost is. So those numbers, when they're going out with you, are pretty accurate numbers, because you guys have gotten really good at walking into the basement and saying, hey, this is going to be 85 grand, which is great. So I always tell clients, well, can you run out? James told me it was 120 to do this renovation. So if he told you it's 120, I could probably bet you it's going to be very damn close to 120 because he's done so many of them that he knows what the prices are, right? So now it's a matter of closing on your property, getting the drawings done. And then if you want to get a couple of quotes and then compare the quotes and go with the contractor you're more comfortable with. But if you're buying a property and they told you this is what they think it's going to be, that's a pretty accurate number to use in your numbers to go ahead and buy that property.
Hey, Manny, question about licensing. So contractors, my understanding, Hamilton has its own licensing. Like, so are Toronto contractors allowed to renovate in Hamilton, or?
No, you need a Hamilton license. So we are licensed in different cities. Hamilton is one of them. So we both have, I've got the contractor, you need a contractor's license and you need a master's license in order to operate in the city of Hamilton as a contractor. So I have the contractor's license. Matt has the master's license, and all our licenses and IDs are actually on our quotes. When we send out our electronic quotes, we actually have picture IDs with all our license numbers on it, and we actually have the license certificates showing that it's been renewed for that year that we're working in. So
is it on a card or on a piece of paper?
It's both. We have ID cards because sometimes the inspector comes along and they're going to ask a contractor for their ID, right? So Matt will have his ID and flash it out, and then we're good to go. If you're a homeowner, if you're doing the job as a homeowner, I mean, obviously you don't need to be licensed. You can do a lot of the stuff yourself. But as soon as a contractor is involved on your site, that contractor has to be licensed. And that's a good point because a lot of them are not. So you ask them if they're working in City of Hamilton, I'd be asking them for City of Hamilton contractors licenses. And again, it's a picture ID, it's almost like a driver's license. And I've got one, Matt's got one, and then we got the certificates that go with it because you got to renew with the city every year. So, and again, those are, when we send out a quote to a client, all that information is on there, the photos of the cards and the photos of actually the certificates that were paid up to date in the city of Hamilton. So that's very important because you can run into liability issues. If there's a problem on the job, you can get sued. That's the other thing. We have insurance for Hamilton. So we always got $2 million liability on a property when we're working on it. A lot of these contractors that don't have insurance, and I can tell you right now, if a contractor gets injured on a job and they don't have WSIB, you're going to be paying them big money because you'll be sued for their WSIB or any damage on the property. So that's very important. You know, that's another good point because a lot of clients don't, a lot of contractors don't have that, and we sometimes forget to talk about that. But you as a homeowner are responsible to make sure that anybody entering your home is actually insured and has WSIB. If they don't, tell them to get a WSIB certificate for that property or for that job, or don't let them in, because if they fall off a ladder and they break their neck, guess what? You're going to have a big lawsuit. It ain't going to be WSIB, it's going to be you. So that's very important to find out. And we have all of that. Again, there's another cost in doing that some of these small contractors don't have, and they do their jobs a little bit cheaper, but they don't have any of that stuff. So it's in a cost to have that, but you have to have it. Like, don't let a contractor in your house that is not licensed in the city of Hamilton and that does not have insurance.
Totally.
So Manny, there's a question in the chat here. They're asking, before starting the conversion, should you get drawings first or speak to the contractor first?
You can have a bit of a discussion with the contractor if you want to get an idea on price based on square footage and where it is. But there's not much we can do until you've got permit drawings. And then again, once you have those permit drawings and the scope of work, it's easier for you to get multiple quotes because then those quotes will be the same. You're handing out those drawings, they're looking at those notes, and everyone's following the notes. Now, a lot of times the drawings don't have things like finishes on them, and they're not going to. So, and the most of them that we have don't. So when we do a project, we put all the finishes and stuff that we're doing on there. So you got to compare those finishes to the other contractor's finishes. Where if you have a scope of work and you take some time and say, hey, I want shaker style cabinets, I want to make sure I got quartz tops, I want to make sure I got 6 mil vinyl flooring, and you put that in there, you can add that as an attachment to your drawings. That way you're going to get quotes that are proper than being all over the place, because then the contractor is just going to guess at what you want and what he's going to do, and he can't guess what you want, so he's just going to put what he thinks is going to work for his quote. So that's very important. But get drawings first before you get multiple quotes. Unless you're dead stuck in using a contractor, then that's fine.
So there is another question here. Aside from plumbing and electrical, can the homeowner do the renovation themselves when building a legal suite?
Absolutely. You just got to follow all the same rules and all the same steps. 100%.
Ask
You can do
David Tudo. David.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
He's
There's
like, what, my name?
There's if you've got the time and you've got a little bit of know-how and all that stuff, yeah, you absolutely can do it yourself. 100%.
So
Yeah,
is the
I did that, and it was a lot of time spent on that. If I was to do it again, I probably wouldn't do it because my time is probably spent better spent doing something else.
Yeah,
But it was a nice experience, though.
It's a great experience, and you got to evaluate what your time is worth.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, I mean, hey, if you got lots of time, you've got nothing else to do, and you think you can do it, by all means, you can do it. It's
Yeah.
not,
The problem is
undoable.
there's too much things to do and not enough time doing stuff right now.
Yeah, I hear you. You did a
You
great
can
job,
check-
though.
It was
Yeah, check
awesome.
that off your
I
bucket
got
list.
That place was appraised for $645 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we got all our money out of it. It's rented out, no problem. It was a good experience. I wouldn't do it again, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
good question though.
So what rentals doesn't require permits and what requires permit? What type of renovation? Just plumbing, electrical?
Anything that electrical is very important to get an ESA. Anything plumbing, structural requires a permit. Plumbing, structural, insulation, foam, all that stuff, that all requires permit. And if you're just going into a house, you're doing flooring and paint and some hardware and some doors, that stuff doesn't require a permit. But once you start changing plumbing, it actually does, right? Because I got to do pressure tests on it and everything else. Even if it's existing and you're replacing it all, it technically requires a permit. So plumbing.
What about demolition?
Demolition, yes. You know, technically there's certain demolition that you wouldn't think requires a permit, but if you ask that to the city, they're going to say yes.
So
Right, so
that's a good part here.
yeah, and anything structural, of course.
Right. So based on your experience, like my understanding is, there's ESA, there's building code, that's which is Ontario, but I'm also hearing that, each city has its own rules. Can you talk about some that are for renovations?
Not a lot for renovations. Like the code is going to be the same throughout for renovations. The only thing that's going to be different is some cities, when it comes to second suites, things like municipal laws, like parking, stuff like that. Like as far as the building code goes and the fire code goes, it's going to be the same all the way through Ontario. It's not going to change. But you'll go into a city like, for instance, Barrie doesn't require side-by-side parking. You can get tandem parking and get a legal second suite. As we know, Hamilton, you can't. It's got to have side-by-side parking. Each vehicle must be able to get on its own. So those types of things differ from city to city. But as far as fire code and building code, they're all the same.
Right. So you're saying that an inspector coming inside a basement conversion, with just in the basement, in a Barrie and Hamilton would have a very similar checklist?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes, because they're all following the same code.
Gotcha.
Right, and some of them may be stricter than others for certain things, like if you're off by an inch or something, you might get an inspector that'll say, well, it's fine. And you might get another guy who says, it's not fine, right? And there's nothing you can do, and they say it's not fine, right? But for the most part, yeah, the code is the same. It hasn't changed. Fire code and building code is the same throughout Ontario.
I guess it would be like, sometimes when there's ductwork and your ductwork is, maybe at 6'2", and, you have to look at where the egress is.
Yeah, so we're doing one in Barrie right now where the height is 6'2" in certain areas, but it's not enough because we got a couple of beams going all the way through that are 6'2". But we're actually going to remove those beams, cut footings in, put new posts in. We're going to recess that beam right into the floor, so it's going to give us full height. Because I know Barrie will not pass it. They're very, very strict on that. But the code is the same throughout Ontario. The code hasn't changed. It's just a different bylaws for cities like parking and stuff like that. That may vary, but the code is 100% the same.
Manny, do you find a difference in terms of, or I guess my question is, which city is better in terms of dealing with inspectors? Would it be Hamilton or Simcoe?
They're both pretty similar. Like, I mean, if you go to Hamilton, you're going to get inspectors that are really easy to deal with. and you're going to get other ones that are very, very, very picky about everything. But for the most part, they've been pretty good. I mean, they don't want to hold up a job or screw you up in any way. So they're there to work with you. And we haven't had many issues with the inspectors, and we've got good relationships with most of them because they already know us. I mean, a lot of us are on a first name basis. They know who we are and what we're doing. Barrie, the same thing. They've been pretty good. I haven't done much work in Midland. We're only starting to do some work in Midland right now, but the discussions I've actually had with one of the inspectors out there, I got really good feedback on. It seems that they're easy to deal with as well. But they're all pretty good. I mean, you're going to get the one hard-nosed guy, but it's very rare. For the most part, I can't say anything bad about them. They've been very helpful. They're always there, even on a phone call if you need some advice on something. So they've been excellent.
It's a good point, though, that you brought up the inspectors, because our contractors having at least good relationships or knowing the inspectors are key as well. I know both you and Matt know, like you said, the inspectors, by name you call each other. You have, I think, phone number, these cell phone numbers, being able to push some things ahead or knowing what they're going to look for when they come out. So another key to know that, yeah, you're licensed in the city, you know all the city bylaws, but you actually also know the inspectors that are coming out.
Yeah, and where that's helpful is sometimes if you're in a hurry, you're in a rush. Like for instance, we had one where we've got everything spray foam now and ready for drywall, and we call them up for an inspection for drywall and for spray foam actually. And the answer is just take a couple of pictures and move on. There's no need for me to come down there because they know what we're doing. They trust our work, and we just make sure we catalog everything with pictures so that we have them. But if they don't know you, they're not going to do that. They're going to come out. If you got to wait a day or so for them to come out, they're going to come out. They only do that with contractors that they know are licensed Hamilton contractors, and they've got a relationship with them. So that helps a lot. Where you can call for an inspection and say, "Don't worry about it. Just carry on. Take a picture."
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we're getting close to the end of our time. I don't want to respect everyone's time here as well. So unless there's a last question to come up, I think we're just about done. Manny, maybe anybody wants to reach you besides through us, your YouTube channel? Or your
you can always reach me at primoreno.ca. That's my website. So if you go on there, it's very easy to get in touch with me and send me an email from there. If you want to check out that site, there's a lot of helpful information. If you want to look at joint venture stuff, I mean, you can go to primoinvestmentproperties.ca. So we'll have a lot of literature on becoming a joint venture with us. Or if you want to look at my my house buying site, that's simcoehousebuyers.ca.
That's great. And we'll probably
or they can call you and you can just give them my cell number.
Yeah. There you go. Well, that's great. And also, Matt, patios are open. Lunch. Let's do it. Okay, we're due.
Salads only. Salads only.
Yeah. No, bring some Portuguese tarts. Just
no desserts.
Bring the Portuguese tarts. That's great. So thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for joining and all your questions. It was wonderful. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Manny. Thank you to our team, everyone that's here and helpful. So any other questions going forward, we can pass them on to Manny and make sure we get you connected. Okay.
Yeah, you can always, like I say, go on my website if you want to ask me a question, and I'll get back to you. No problem.
Wonderful.
Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks, Tammy.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Guys. Thank you, Manny.
Margarita time. Bye.
Do it.
Bye.
I got a picture of us all smiling at the end.
Oh yeah.
one
nice.
chin.